Now, friends, the question is, do prayer and meditation actually affect the human brain? I should say first, for thousands of years, people have described prayer and meditation as sources of peace, hope, comfort, and spiritual strength. And today, researchers are also studying these practices. They're looking at how prayer and meditation may affect the brain, or our emotions, or our health, and even our relationships with other people. One well-known discussion of this subject appears in the book. It's called How God Changes Your Brain. It's written by Dr. Andrew Newberg and Mark Waldman. After looking at many studies about religion, spirituality, prayer, and meditation, the authors reach two general conclusions. They write, a quote from them, they write, if you take the most constructive assessment of the hundreds of medical, neurological, psychological, and sociological studies on religion, two conclusions are evident. That's what they wrote. The first conclusion is about the connection between religious participation and health. They wrote, I quote, first, involvement with religious and spiritual activities generally does no harm unless you focus on a God who fills you with anger and fear. Even minimal religious participation is correlated with enhancing longevity and personal health. That's what they wrote. But friends, we should understand this statement very carefully. It doesn't mean that religion automatically makes people healthy. It also doesn't mean that every religious belief is emotionally helpful. What it means is that many studies have found a connection between certain kinds of religious or spiritual activity and better health. There may be several reasons for this. Religious communities, for instance, can provide friendship, can provide support or a sense of belonging, and a practical help during illness or difficult times. Also, religious teachings may encourage people to develop healthier habits, greater self-control, for instance, or forgiveness or hope, and a sense of purpose. Prayer and meditation also may help some people manage stress, calm difficult emotions, and face suffering with greater patience. But religion does not, friends, always have a positive effect. What do I mean by that? I mean, when religious belief is mostly based on fear or anger or guilt or hostility or the image of a harsh and punishing God, it may create emotional pain instead of peace. So it is not only religion itself that matters. The way religion is understood and experienced also matters. So the author's second conclusion, I should add, is about the brain. I quote from Dr. Newberg. He writes, activities involving meditation and intensive prayer permanently strengthen neural functioning in specific parts of the brain that are involved with lowering anxiety and depression. enhancing social awareness and empathy, and improving cognitive and intellectual functioning. That's what he wrote. Friends, the word permanently is a very strong word. So we should be very careful with that. Research does suggest that repeated mental activities can affect how the brain works. Over time, they may even help create changes in certain parts of the brain. This is connected to something that is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity simply means that the brain can change and adapt through repeated experience and practice. For example, when someone regularly practices a musical instrument, certain mental and physical skills can become stronger. In a similar way, regularly practicing meditation, focused prayer, or thoughts of compassion may strengthen our ability to pray, to pay attention, and manage emotions and become more aware of ourselves. But the results are not the same for everyone, I should say that. The effects may depend on the kind of prayer or meditation, how often a person prays or practices, how long they practice, their health, and many other personal factors. At the very least, prayer and meditation may help some people feel calmer or more focused and even more aware. Newberg and Waldman also, they wrote, I quote from them, they say, at the very least, such practices help you remain calm, serene, peaceful, and alert. And for nearly everyone, it gives you a positive and optimistic outlook on life. So friends, once again, we should not take these as a promise. Prayer and meditation don't always remove anxiety, sadness, depression, or mental health problems. They should also not replace professional, medical, or psychological treatment when that treatment is needed. But prayer and meditation may still be helpful alongside proper treatment and healthy daily habits. Prayer can give us a moment of inner quiet. Meditation can help interrupt thoughts that keep repeating in our minds. Quiet reflection can help us notice our emotions without immediately reaching to them. Over time, these practices may help us face life with greater calmness and a clearer point of view. Of course, prayer and meditation are not the only ways to support brain health. Exercise, enough sleep, strong relationships, music, conversation, learning, and reducing stress can all of them support our mental and emotional health. Even simple actions like smiling have been studied in connection with mood. Newberg also writes, I quote from them, it says, the mere act of smiling repeatedly helps to interrupt mood disorders and strengthen the brain's neural ability to maintain a positive outlook on life. We should also be careful, friends, with this statement. Smiling by itself is not a treatment for a serious mood disorder. But our facial expressions and emotions can affect each other. Sometimes relaxing the face or gently smiling may help shift our attention and emotional state, especially when it is combined with other healthy practices. Prayer and meditation may be especially meaningful because they can involve many parts of human experience at the same time. They may involve attention, breathing, emotion, memory, or hope, moral reflection, trust, and a feeling of closeness to God. Faith is also closely connected with hope and trust. Again, let me quote from Dr. Newberg's book. He writes that faith is equivalent to hope, optimism, and the belief that a positive future awaits us. Faith can also be defined as the ability to trust our beliefs, even when we have no proof that such beliefs are accurate or true. That's what they wrote. So these authors also refer to the psychiatrist Frankl. Frankl survived imprisonment in Nazi concentration camps and later wrote about meaning, suffering, hope, and human strength. He believed that having a sense of meaning could help people continue through extremely difficult situations. This does not mean that faith guarantees survival or removes suffering. It means that faith may give a person an inner source of strength. It may help someone believe that life still has meaning, even when the situation is painful or uncertain or difficult to understand. So some psychologists and social scientists don't try to answer religious questions about whether God exists or what God is like. Instead, they study how belief in God affects people's thoughts or actions or hopes and emotional health. From this limited scientific point of view, friends, belief in God may be studied as a source of meaning, or as a source of comfort or courage or hope and moral direction, probably. This kind of belief may be especially important for people who feel alone or feel weak or powerless or pushed aside by society. Newberg also writes, I quote again from him, he says, "To me, it doesn't matter if God is an illusion or fact, because even as a metaphor, God represents all we are capable of becoming, an ideal that offers hopes to millions of people throughout the world, especially for those who may have little to fall back on other than their religious ties." That's what he wrote. So friend, this is the personal view of the authors, and it is important to separate their view from the Baha'i understanding of God, of course. The Baha'i faith teaches that God is real. At the same time, it teaches that the true nature of God is beyond our full understanding. So when a scientist studies God mainly as an idea or a symbol or psychological influence, We should not confuse that with the Baha'i belief about God. I need to mention that and emphasize that. So still, scientific research may help us understand how belief, prayer, and spiritual practices affect the human mind. Faith, exercise, and companionship may all help support a healthier and a stronger mind. Exercise supports the body and the brain. Friendship and companionship protect us from loneliness. Faith can give us meaning, can give us direction, can give us courage and hope. All of these are important. For religious person, meditation may help spiritual teachings move beyond the level of words and ideas. It may help a person think more deeply about those teachings and apply them in daily life. For someone who is not religious, meditation on compassion, gratitude, hope, forgiveness, or optimism may also be helpful. The subject of meditation may be different, but the practice of focused attention may still affect the brain. Like most things we want to improve, meditation requires regular practice. Newberg also, in this regard, writes, practice, practice, practice. And also he adds that so how long should you practice? It's up to you. Research studies often use a specific amount of time, such as an 8-week training program with up to 50 minutes of practice each day. But if you only feel comfortable meditating for 5 or 10 minutes once or twice a day, then trust your intuition. Obviously, more time spent, the greater the results. So friends, the main point is not that everyone must follow the same schedule. Some people may begin with only a few minutes, others may practice for longer periods. What matters most is being regular, paying attention and choosing a practice that is realistic for your life. We should also not assume that practicing for a long time will always produce greater results. Too much meditation or meditation without proper guidance may be difficult for some people, especially those dealing with trauma or serious anxiety or other probably psychological conditions. Balance and good guidance are important, very important. Meditation may also affect our relationships. Newberg suggests that meditation may help people develop greater closeness or trust and compassion. Newberg writes, I quote from him, meditation is good for your brain and it can bring you closer to God. But we discovered that it can also be used to rapidly establish intimacy with others. That's what he wrote. Here the word intimacy doesn't mean sexual closeness. It means friendship, openness, or trust, or acceptance and compassion. So friends, when people feel safe and connected, they may become less defensive and more willing to listen. Stronger emotional connections can support healthier relationships and may also improve our overall well-being. Again, Newberg writes, I quote from him, intimacy fosters acceptance and greater degrees of intimacy are correlated with greater personal health. So friends, prayer and meditation may support this by helping us think less only about ourselves. They may create more room in our hearts and minds for patience, for understanding, and empathy. Compassion is not only a beautiful idea, it means noticing the suffering of others and responding with kindness. Again, Newberg writes that compassion also implies the neurological ability to express kindness, empathy, and forgiveness. These abilities can be practiced. We can choose to think about forgiveness. We can pray for someone with whom we disagree. We can think about the suffering of others and become more aware of what they may be going through. Over time, these practices may help us develop more compassionate ways of thinking and acting. So, do prayer and meditation affect the brain? Again, the question that what we started. The evidence suggests that they can. They may affect attention, emotions, strength, self-awareness, compassion, and certain patterns of activity in the brain. But the effects are different for each person. And we should not exaggerate what science has found. Prayer and meditation are not magical cures. They do not promise happiness. They do not remove every illness. They do not replace medical care. Their value may be found in something much simpler but also much deeper. They give us a chance to pause. They help us step away from the constant noise of inside our minds. They allow us also to look more honestly at our fears, our intentions, and our desires. So they may open our hearts to hope, to trust, to gratitude, forgiveness, compassion, and all of that. For a believer, prayer and meditation may deepen the relationship with God. For others, they may offer a practical way to develop meaning or calmness and emotional balance. In both cases, regular prayer and meditation may also shape the mind. And when the mind begins to change and shape, the way we live may also begin to change. It may affect the way we treat each other. It may affect the choices we make. And it may help us respond to difficulties of life and great patience and strength and hope.